The 767th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMASGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Just go to edgeboost.bet and use promo code SGPN. And finally, we're brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven props. Rhythm is giving away a $250 future and throwing a March Madness party. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for all the details.
Heidi ho, DeGenerinos. Welcome to episode 767 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to all the haters that are hate viewing us right now on YouTube. The haters are out. They were out in full flock, full steam. That they were coming hard for us.
Haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. But hey, a view is a view. So we appreciate you. If we suck so bad, yet you still are continuously watching and commenting. So thank you, because the algorithm.
I did finish 6-6 on that UFC card that people were hating on. By the way, it's 6-6. Yeah. Not a good night, but not a bad one.
People are quick to jump on that voice. That voice would be Daniel Gumby Vreeland. He saved himself in the main card, going perfect on the main card of last night's UFC. I, of course, was 8-4 once again. I'm on a nice little run here, so I am the king of UFC again. Gumby had a little run there for a few weeks, but
are you officially ahead on the
I am
numbers?
Officially ahead by a couple $100 right now. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. There's still time.
There's still time.
We'll talk more UFC in a couple of days, because UFC train rolls on. They got another event coming up, headlined by flyweights. But as you can, I didn't introduce myself. What's my name now? I didn't get any nicknames through all the hate, sadly. So I guess I am still Princess Possum, Jeff Fox. Thanks for coming to the show. As you can see by the title, it's not a UFC episode. It is your regional MMA that you come to rely on us for. LFA 203 is what we're covering today. They're headed into the UFC's turf. They're going to be in Las Vegas this coming Thursday. Not this Thursday. Okay. Here's the thing. A week from Thursday. Unless you're a big fan of Chunky Husky MMA.
Fat Husky, I think it was called Fat Husky.
Fat Husky MMA or Alash Pride FC or MMA. There's no high-level regional MMA this weekend, so we are working a week ahead. There's plenty this coming week. Actually 2 weeks from now. You get what I'm saying. This is going to be March the 6th is the LFA event we are covering. So maybe you're watching this on March the 5th. Maybe you're watching this the second we drop it, but that's what we're covering. And they are going to be in the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas for LFA 203. Satybaldiev versus Soares, a Thursday night, which is an odd night for the UFC, but we will take it. MMA on any night other than Saturday, basically, we'll take, which is good. 8 p.m. start time. Thoughts on the fight card, Mr. Gumby?
A couple of fighters I'm really excited about. Some people who are on the Contender Series, some people who are supposed to be on Contender Series, some other prospects we've sort of highlighted over the time. So, I'm excited for this one. It should be a good fight card.
Yeah, and it's got our boy on it. So he's still
one of our boys.
Even though he lost, he's still our boy. All right, before we dive into it, we're going to remind you it's almost time for March Madness. So gear up for March with Merch Madness. Promo code MADNESS for 20% off in the SGPN store. Get in now before the promo code is done. Obviously, you're going to want to get maybe the shirt I'm wearing right now or my SGPN hat, or we actually have really cool new Degen hats. Lots of MMA Gambling Podcast gear. So sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. 20% off if you type in the code MADNESS. Oh, yeah. Freak out. All right. Let's break her down. 11 fights, which is kind of small for LFA, but maybe they're going to add some after the fact. We're starting off with, we're not doing 11 fights. Sorry, people. Gumby will give you some bonus picks at the end, so hang around for that. We're starting with a 185-pound fight, which would be, by my math, middleweight. Sharaf, Davlatmurodov. So we got an OV. We got a few OVs in this card. He's from Tajikistan. He is up against Renato, Valente. He is from Brazil. You know, because I said Renato, maybe I said Hanate. It's Renato instead of Renato. So 3 5 rounds, 185. Let's break it down. No odds yet because we are a week and a half out from this event. Gumby will give you his guesstimate. Valente is Indio, which translates to Indian. He's 10-7, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. 3-4 in LFA, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. The man is consistently being inconsistent. 1-0 in Bellator, multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. That's what my shirt says. Get it in the store, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Madness is your code. 2015 Pro MMA debut. Used to fight at 170. 0-1 as a pro grappler, 2 inches height over Davlatmurodov. Davlatmurodov is a wolfhound. Have we discussed him before? I think we may have.
No, because there's another. No? You're thinking of the one who's in PFL.
Is he
Yakshimuradov, I'm pretty sure, is also wolfhound.
Yep. All right. He's a wolfhound. This guy is too. 19-5-1, 8 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. This is his debut in LFA. He's gone loss over his last 3, 7-2 over his last 9, which is much more impressive. 1-1 Bellator. He's fought at welterweight as well. 2015 Pro MMA debut, an inch of reach over Valente. Take it away.
So I think Davlatmurodov is probably going to be like a -325 favorite, maybe even a little bit bigger than that. He's got the OV end of his name. Valente does not have really good looking record right now, right? He's 10-7, you said.
Yeah, like that. Yep, 10-7. Yep,
not particularly good. So I have to imagine the better looking prospect, in addition to having a name that strikes fear in people's minds, is going to be the one with the favorite. So, and I'm going to go with Davlatmurodov. I think first of all, I don't really like the way he stands when he strikes. He's got kind of like a hunched over stance, particularly when he gets into prolonged exchanges. But the good news for him is Valente sort of winds up on his strikes kind of a lot. So even if he was in some sort of prolonged exchange, like Valente isn't really great at like piecing things together that he doesn't wind up on. And I think for the most part, he'll be able to stay away from the stuff that gets wound up on. And I do like his wrestling, like he gets to the legs really well. He doesn't plow through to finish all that well, but he does work sort of diligently against the cage. He tries to lock his hands. He moves from singles to doubles. It's more of like slow, diligent wrestling than it is power wrestling. But I think it all works for Davlatmurodov. And Valente's wrestling defense is sort of held up in the past. Like he hasn't had too many issues with it. But it's sort of the level of competition he's fighting against too, I think. Because if you watch, he doesn't necessarily dig underhooks when you want him to. And sometimes he tries to throw elbows to the side of the head instead. So he's doing like maybe the non-preferred types of things that you should be doing when you're fighting a wrestler. I think Davlatmurodov should expose that. So give me Davlatmurodov, probably a pretty big favorite.
All right. Who started the OV trend? Do you remember who was the first big OV that started this thing? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I mean, there's
first
probably
OV you can think of?
Oleg Tarkov.
That's a good call out. That was
that's
way back.
Probably the oldest OV.
Maybe the oldest OV. There's a title for us. All right, we are going to. You said one of our boys. No, actually, no, we're not going to him yet. Next, excuse me. These are not boys. These are nice ladies that would never fight in a cage. Beatriz Mesquita. She is from Brazil. Hope Chase from the United States. Mesquita really isn't her last name, right? Because that's like, isn't that mosquito?
I have no idea. I know they call it Bia Mesquita.
Bia Mesquita.
They don't usually use the Beatriz. They usually shorten it up.
Yeah. And Bia Mesquita, we'll tell you about first. She's 3-0 with 3 submissions, 2-0 in LFA, 28-8 as a grappler. I'm sure it's way higher than that. She's a 10-time world champion, which is a record for a female black belt, I believe, competing on a black belt level. 3 inches reach over Haas. Lucky we're only doing one episode today because I'm having issues here. Chase is the name. Hurricane Hope Chase. 4-2, 1 knockout, 3 submissions. So she finished everyone. She owes rounds. Both these ladies owe us rounds. She's been knocked out once. 0-1 in LFA. Win over her last 3. She got a sub win in her last fight. She should try that this week too. Or next fight, I mean. 1-0 Invicta. A karate champion. This is like old school UFC. Karate versus BJJ. 7 years younger than Mesquita, an inch taller. I think we've discussed both these ladies in the past too.
Yeah, we actually talked about Hope Chase last week. I don't know if you remember. We talked about her when we talked about Sierra Dinwiddie. The Canadian I'm really high on. Pretty much the reason I was high on her is because she beat Hope Chase. Yeah. And she's an interesting prospect because, like you said, she's got good striking from her karate background, but she's also like kind of a little bit of a bruiser in the clinch. She's like really strong. But then we saw her kind of exposed when what happens when she faces somebody who's really good in the clinch or really good in wrestling. Sierra Dinwiddie took her down, took her back, beat her up on the mat. And granted, Dinwiddie's good. She was part of my I was actually 4-0 on LFA last week. She was part of my 4-0 run.
You only care that you missed UFC picks and that you missed and then even on our main card, they were mad that we got our locks wrong. So there you go.
Oh,
haters gonna hate.
I was 5-0 on the main card.
Anyway,
but I did good on LFA. Yeah, and I said, Dinwiddie sort of drew the pattern to beat her, right? It's just like you can take her down with technical knockouts or by being better technically in the clinch. And like Bam Mesquita, like that is her game, right? Like she's a jiu-jitsu wizard. She's pulling subs on people who are far, far more talented than Hope Chase. And like she's shown in her last few fights that her hands are sort of coming around. And certainly like the wrestling game is picking up to the point where I no longer have to wonder, like, is Bia Mesquita going to get this fight to the mat so that she can win? As long as she's on this regional level right now, like, I don't think there's any doubt that she can. As far as the odds go for this fight, I think the odds are going to be not playable, to be completely honest with you. I think it's going to be like negative 450 on Mesquita, mostly just because, she's got the hype behind her. She's a multi-time champion. Hope Chase did win her last fight, but she, lost her last fight in LFA to Dinwiddie, who's, like really good. And I've said, like, I expect to see her on Contender Series, but I don't expect it to be as hyped as Bia Mesquita. So, like, I expect the line here to be kind of unplayable because, to be honest, like, Hope Chase is probably better than being, like a plus 380 underdog to Bia Mesquita here. So I'm going to take Mesquita. I will say, depending on where this line goes, perhaps just stay away.
What are your thoughts on her as a prospect going forward? She's 32, I think I just looked up. Do you think she's got a future at a higher level than this, or what do you think?
I do, just because like anytime anybody is that high level in any particular discipline, you got to pay some attention to them. And then it's women's bantamweight. So there's the other thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. She's big. I forgot about that. Yes. Very good point. Very good point. All right. That's before we break down the last 3 fights. Let me tell you about Edge Boost. SGPN has partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. You know your money is safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks and it's completely free. Sign up today and use the promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. And you're going to use that to make Al Horford plays as we do here. So go to edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet every sport. Plus props for every game and the live dealer casino. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations, and they have easy deposits and lightning fast payouts using crypto. Check out the Al Horford props, and of course, they'll have LFA lines when they do drop. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Actually, MMA SGPN. Don't forget the MMA part, and then we get credit. So MMA SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN. New viewers, listeners are wondering who is Al Horford, and why are they speaking of this man? He's not an LFA fighter.
He's a legend. Everybody knows who Al Horford is.
Yeah,
nobody's actually questioning that.
It's true. All right. Now, you said he's one of our boys. Are you?
That's because Al Horford's the other one.
Oh, that's true. Antoine Ho, we're speaking of. I had a friend in high school. His name is Tuan Ho. True story. And this Antoine Ho is from Vietnam as well, right? Like my friend. Yes. So Antoine Ho, not my friend, versus Micah Haas. So we got Vietnam versus United States. 3 5-minute rounds, 125. Let's break her down. We've spoken of both these people. Do I say Haas's nickname? Have I said it? Okay, fine. He gave himself the nickname, the Super Jew, ladies and gentlemen. Have we discussed this before, Gumby? He's been on your show, hasn't he?
I mean, I discussed it with him. Yeah.
Okay. Listen, go into Gumby's archives for that. The Top Turtle MMA podcast. So Haas is 6-0 with 1 knockout. He needs some finishes. 1 known LFA, regional champ, 3 inches of height over Ho, the highlight. Antoine Ho, 6-1, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out once. 6-0 in LFA, 0-1 in Contender Series. That was his last fight. He got knocked out by Loner Kavanaugh. Yeah, we were sad to see those two having to fight this early in their career. So, all right, are we in on Ho? Is the line going to be depleted a bit because he's got knocked out? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be depleted a bit, but I think he's still going to be the favorite. I kind of expect this at like a -175 kind of range. Because Haas is undefeated. He's fought in LFA. He looked really good in that last fight. He was fighting Eric Calvert, I believe it was, who is another undefeated prospect, and he kind of pieced him up pretty well. Micah Haas is kind of a fun striker. He's funky, a little bit tough to deal with in terms of the angles he cuts and stuff like that. But the bottom line for me here and why I'm taking Antoine Ho is I just don't think Haas creates enough power. You mentioned he's only got one knockout, right? And Antoine Ho creates a ton of power. So we already have, sort of a dichotomy here where we have one guy who can knock the other one out and the other one who can't. So already we're limiting Micah Haas's avenues to victory to mostly point fighting from the outside and beating Antoine Ho that way. And then in addition to that, when you add in the fact that Antoine Ho is actually a really good wrestler. If you want to go back to my breakdown for when he fought Lonair Kavanaugh, I actually said I kind of hope he wrestles Lonair Kavanaugh. I thought it would help him in that fight either open up his striking or make it such that, Kavanaugh had one more thing to think about. Now, obviously, the fight didn't go that long, but Antoine Ho has good wrestling in his back pocket. He's fought some really good wrestlers on the regional scene and come out looking no worse for the wear in those exchanges. So, I think he has the opportunity to wrestle Haas here if he really wants to. I also don't think he's really going to want to. I think he can throw hands with him. I mean, he might feel some jabs from Micah Haas from weird angles, and it might be, not exactly what he's looking for on the feet. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be powerful enough that's going to deter him from coming forward. So I'm going to take Antoine Ho. My guess is that the number will be slightly depleted, having been knocked out in his last fight. But the fact that he's a super prospect, he was on Contender Series, just being on Contender Series usually buoys their numbers a little bit at the regional book. I'm going to say he's still a favorite here.
Do you think he's going to recover okay from the last fight?
I like to think so. We never really know. You never really know how somebody is going to rebound from a loss, right? And we've seen some prospects do just fine, and we saw Max Roshkov, right? Remember Max Roshkov, who
exactly people don't remember him. That's the reason,
yeah. He quit on the stool after 2 rounds with Austin Hubbard, and we never saw him again. He popped up for fights here and there, but we never really know how a fighter will deal with it mentally. I think Antoine Ho is probably fine. He's an MMA lab guy, so he's around the right people. It's not like this guy's never faced adversity in his life. This is a guy who's seen some things in his life, so I can't imagine one loss is going to completely shake him to the point where he won't recover.
You can hear from him in the archives of Top Turtle as well, right? Yeah, there you go. All right, let's give you one more breakdown before we take another little break here. We are up to the co-main event already. I would, by my math here, we are up to Allan Begosso from the country known as Brazil versus Micaias Ureña. He's not from Brazil. He is from a different country. We don't get a heck of a lot of fighters from. He's from the Dominican Republic. These guys are fighting at 135, 3 5-minute rounds. We have spoken of them before. Morena is the Pink Ranger, Power Ranger shutout. 9-3, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. 1-1 in LFA. 5-1 over his last 6. He did lose his last fight. He was a regional champ. He used to fight at 145. 4 inches height, 3 inches reach over Begosso. So pretty big size discrepancy for a lightweight class like bantamweight. Begosso is mini, 8-3-1, 3 knockouts, 3 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 4-2 in LFA, 1-2 over his last 3, 2-3 over his last 5. He did win his last fight. That was back in August of 2023. He lost on Contender Series. Gummy's going to remember who he lost to.
Is it Farid Basharat?
Yes, correct. Oh, what happened to him? Sad. Wait a minute. Farid.
No, that was Javid.
Yes, Freed's a good brother now, apparently.
Yeah,
right?
maybe. I don't know. That knockout was nuts, though.
Someone, one of our friends in the Discord already has it as their avatar.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Not going so hot there. All right. 2014 Pro MMA debut for Begosso. Used to fight at 125. Breaker down.
So I mentioned how being on Contender Series already buoys your number a little bit. So I imagine that will for Begosso a little bit. And this is a fight based on their LFA results that I think would probably be pretty close. Originally I wrote down Pick'em, and now kind of thinking about Begosso having that background, maybe -120 Begosso, even money on Ureña. And I'm going to take Ureña on this one. I'd bet him all the way into like the negative 155, negative 160 kind of range. If he got into the negative hundreds and I thought it a little bit more, I might talk myself into throwing him into a parlay. But like the bottom line is I really do like Ureña. I think he's super explosive on the feet. He's a guy who gives you really good angles no matter what when he fights. I love his pressure. He turns the pressure up really high all the time. No matter whether he's fighting, somebody who fights him back that way or somebody who, sort of sits on their heels, he brings the style that he wants to bring. And the thing about Begosso is if you've watched him fight before, he's kind of complacent on the feet. He gets overly patient. He sits way back in his stance. He lets people back him up against the cage. And, obviously he does some things well too. I like the way he mixes it up in the clinch. I like, sometimes his top game looks pretty good. And like when he throws, I am pretty impressed with his striking style too. Like he does generate quite a bit of power. He's a guy who puts it on people when he's choosing to. He just doesn't choose to all that often. And I imagine with Ureña being the type of guy who will walk you down and get in your face the whole time, I imagine that's just going to make it way worse for Begosso all the time. So I'm going to go with Macias for Ureña. Hopefully close to even money. But like I said, even if he goes into the favorites column, I like him quite a bit here.
Tapology is way into him. They're like 72%, I think, on him. So hopefully that doesn't change the lines. Yeah, 73%. Yeah, even more. So yeah, there you go. Maybe you're on the right path. That means, but it just means hopefully the books don't pay attention to that. So, all right, before we get to the main event, which is for LFA Gold, let me talk about Rhythm. Rhythm is throwing an epic March Madness party, and you're invited. All Rhythm users are invited to a first 4 watch party Wednesday, March 19th. The awesome Stadium Swim at Circa, Las Vegas. Free drinks, plus you get to hang out with the guys from the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Experience. And it gets better. Rhythm is also giving away a $250 March Madness future for one lucky Rhythm user. Just sign up for your 7-day free trial at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. It's RITHMM. Come by and use Rhythm to help you fill out your bracket and make some bets while you are there. A free party plus a chance at a $250 future bet. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party for details at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/party. RITHMM is the place to be as well. Underdog, NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever your sport, you can win cash in big with Underdog Fantasy. Pick 'em. Gummy is going to give you a play right off the bat here.
Sure, I'll take the rebounds of Nikola Vucevic on Monday's action. They're going to be playing the 76ers, who now look to be without, as they often are, Joel Embiid for the foreseeable future. That means rebounds for my boy Vucevic. Take the higher than on his rebounds.
You would think Vucevic played for Gonzaga the way Gumby is in on him always, but no. Gummy's in on Bulls as well often. Sign up with our code MMA SGPN. Claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdogfantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. All right. Main event time. LFA Light Heavyweight Championship. Uran Satybaldiev. I remember we've talked about him before because I probably made urine jokes, didn't I? Because I'm immature. He's from Kyrgyzstan.
I do believe you did. Yeah. You made a lot of pee jokes.
A lot of P jokes. Leon Soares is from Brazil. 5-minute rounds, 2:05. A lot of P jokes actually should be the title of this episode, don't you think? I can't remember what I said originally anyhow. Do you remember what the original title was going to be?
I don't at all.
No, good. Gummy's head's full of important things. My head is full of nonsense. Soares is Ogro, which translates to ogre. He's 9-2 with 7 knockouts. He's been submitted twice. This is his debut in LFA, walking right into a title fight. He's won 3 straight. Before that, he lost 2 straight. 2 straight wins have come via TKO. Has not lost since August 2021. Used to fight at heavyweight and middleweight. 1-0 as a pro kickboxer. Satybaldiev, Gorilla. So Gorilla P is 7-1 with 6 knockouts. Never been finished in a fight. 2-0 in LFA and the current champion of the world. He's won 2 straight, including his last fight via TKO, which was for the belt. Has not lost since July 2022. Used to fight at middleweight, 3 years younger than Soares, 7 inches taller. Because I think Soares is like 5'9" or something ridiculous like that. Or at least that's what he's listed at on.
I think he's taller than that, but he is not tall.
A 5'9" light heavyweight would be pretty wild, but that's what he was listed at. Anyhow, all yours.
Yeah, Satybaldiev is going to be like a negative 700 favorite here, and he's the pick.
Oh boy.
There's things I don't love about Satybaldiev. Like he's a little bit lumbering in the way that he walks forward. I actually really hate when he gets in the clinch where his head placement is. It's almost like he wants to let the other person pressure him with their head and doesn't necessarily do it. But like the bottom line is he can wrestle a little bit. When he does lumber forward for his striking, like it's not the fastest you've ever seen, but it's like light heavyweight good. Regional light heavyweight good. He was also, he was supposed to be on Contender Series this past year.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, he had to pull out with an injury. He was supposed to be the one to fight Rafael Cerqueira.
Okay.
He could have kept us from that nonsense we saw this past week.
You picked him and you got lots of hate. So there you
go. Dude, he looked good until he got knocked out. But with that being said,
I was going to ask you if Satybaldiev is because this is a good time to fight, because this is setting you up timing wise, probably pretty good for Contender Series, right?
Yeah, unless the UFC is pissed off in the way that he dropped out of the fight, and then we'll never see him again. But like, he's an LFA champion. He's clearly going to win this fight. And to give you a technical breakdown of Soares, like, he's slower than Satybaldiev, quite a bit slower than him. And if you watch some of his fights, like, you might catch moments where you're like, oh, his grappling looks pretty good there. But if you watch like the first few minutes of all of them, he's been in like grappling disadvantages like early on regularly, which just like makes me feel like, oh, he's a small light heavyweight. Maybe he's got a little bit better cardio than the guy he's fighting on the Brazilian regional scene. And as a result, like, he's tiring him out and winning. And he's not going to do that to Satybaldiev. So like, I think those bad positions just continue on in this fight instead. And like I said, I don't think he's fast enough to catch Satybaldiev on the feet. So, but yeah, like, Satybaldiev probably heading back to Contender Series in the fall. As long as he can pick up like a devastating win here, and as long as he didn't do anything shady to get himself pulled.
All right. Satybaldiev, hopefully he has a long career, so more P jokes to come. Let's recap, but don't you go away yet. Gummy has more plays for you. Satybaldiev, Ureña, Mesquita, and Davlatmurodov. All right, later on, Zap Bam Boom Pow. Gumby, hit us with it.
Yeah, so I got 3 for you this week, just because there are so many prospects on this LFA 203 card. I couldn't get away without saying of them. I'm not sure how many of them will be playable. Josh Hockett probably will not be playable. That one will probably be in the -1,000 kind of range. People are really excited about what this guy's doing, and I to start, wasn't really buying it. But the ground game seems to be good enough that he is going to be able to dominate people regardless of whether or not he rounds his game out. So I'm excited about seeing him. Stav Korin is a guy who I've regularly been talking about. I've even interviewed Stav Korin before. Very exciting fighter out of Israel, but he's training with, I'm trying to remember which Vegas camp it is now, so I don't say the wrong one. I think it's Syndicate and not Extreme Couture. So I'm going to say Syndicate. He's training with Syndicate, and he's like super fast on the feet, very interesting in terms of his style, kind of funky. So I like Stav Korin. And then the other one I like is HOPENY Pegoa. If any of these guys are going to be playable, it's probably him, because he doesn't always have the best results, but he is super explosive for the size that he is. He's a guy who generates a lot of power for being a little dude, and I'm kind of excited to see what happens next with him. So those picks, once again, are Pegoa, Stav Korin, and Josh Hockett. All
right, you are all set. Hang out in the Discord with us at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Hate on us. Actually, leave Gumby alone. Gumby's a good guy. Leave him alone. You can hate on me.
No, bring the hate. We want the hate. It helps out the algorithm. Yeah,
it's true. MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. Just subscribe before you hate. That's all we ask. Where else? Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's at Gumby Breathin'. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer there and on Instagram. Check out my Substack. No pick'em again this week because there's so many UFC events. I only do pick'ems for 3 events a month, and they're running like 5 coming up. So now that we're complaining, but I will still be writing at moneymma.substack.com. Gummy's got Top Turtle podcast, which we've discussed plenty already, but he can probably give you a sneak peek of who is on it this week.
Yeah, I'm talking to John Castaneda, the Sexy Mexi, and Charles Johnson, who are both fighting on this weekend's card.
Nice. So get one of our favorite Galaxy brains, Charles Johnson. So that should be good. Energy, that will be exciting. So check out Top Turtle. Of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store madness is your code. Sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. You can get some bonus content. And of course, if you're going to sign up for Underdog Fantasy or mybookie.ag, please use the code MMASGPN, and then you will get to hate on us for years to come. Until we'll see. Maybe tomorrow. There's lots of sicknesses running through my house. Hopefully, we'll be back tomorrow. If not, we're going to hit you up with 2 more regional events this week. Don't you worry about that. Until then, be Hurricane Jeff Fox. It'll be a Wolfhound Gubby Reed, and we'll talk to you whenever. Bye.